The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
All systems are a go.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your seats. Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina State Representative Jeff McNeely is about to begin. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, Iredell County. Hope everybody's doing well out there this morning, man. The weather's been pretty great, but it's going to start to warm back up, so that's just part of what it is. We're not done with summer yet. Hey, got a great show today. Got a good friend of mine, Congressman Dan Bishop, who's running for the Attorney General here in North Carolina this election cycle. And I got him on the line, and we're going to bring Dan in and talk to him. He's been on the show before. Always a pleasure. Dan, are you there?
I'm here, Jeff. Good to talk to you, brother. And it's good to be talking at the people in God's country of Iredell County.
That's right. That's right. Here, this is the heartland. This is the heartland. Well, Dan, now I know who you are, and I really truly believe my listeners know who you are. But in case there's somebody that just come out of hibernation, out of a cave or under a rock or whatever, tuned in, tell us a little bit about who Dan Bishop is. Very, very historic, very good past. A lot to brag about.
Well, I don't know about bragging, but I've just worked hard all my life, Jeff. I was a practicing lawyer, did business litigation for people usually representing the under-resourced party, frankly, against the big firms for 29 years. And during that time, I was a county commissioner in Mecklenburg for 4 years, and I swore I'd never touch politics again after that. You know how these things go.
Yep.
And then it was a long time out, but I found my way back and ran for State House 2014, served term in the House, and was elected to the State Senate twice. And that second time I was elected in 2018, that year, a lot of folks know Mark Harris, who's now a Republican nominee for Congress, but he won the race that year for Congress in the 9th District, but then he had one guy that was working for him down east and handled some ballots inappropriately, some absentee ballots.
Yeah, 13 ballots. 13
that's exactly
ballots.
Right. And compared to what you saw in 2020, it's hard to believe, but the state Democrat Board of Elections led the way, and ultimately, by the time it got to be a big circus, Mark even agreed. But they called a special election, and there's a special election in the 9th District, and looked pretty rough, looked pretty tough right then. But I stepped into that and won the seat in Congress. I've been in Congress for 5 years and made it my purpose up there not to just be part of the status quo or stagnant sort of way Congress is too often, but actually push hard to make things change. And glad to have been a part of that, but I think more change is needed in Washington, and I'm not sure the answers come from there right now. So this year decided run for Attorney General of North Carolina, a seat that no Republicans won since 1896.
Wow.
But we've come tantalizingly close. The two last cycles, 2020 and 2016,
yep.
Both were within 1%. The last one was within 0.2%, even though the Republican was outspent about 25-1 down the stretch. So I've entered that race. The other guy who's entered on the other side is Jeff Jackson. He's a freshman member of Congress. He was also in the state Senate, but he's a wokester, and just like Josh Stein has been, and he wants to enforce the laws he wants to enforce. And if he doesn't like a law, they pretend like it's unconstitutional. They'll dream up some far-fetched argument on which it's unconstitutional and just not enforce the law. So that's where we are right now, and we're 71 days out right now today.
And it's getting here quick. I'm telling you, it's moving along really fast. It really is. But Dan, I knew you right there. I was just coming into the State House when you were leaving the State Senate. I always thought you just an incredibly smart guy. Always knew the subject, knew what to say. Always versed in whatever was going on. Well prepared. When I think of Dan Bishop, I think of well prepared. Always, every time I've come to you with anything, you were always well prepared to talk on that topic, and that says a lot because so many. I run into don't really know what's going on. It seems like you have to bring them up to speed, and that takes a while. And so I've always appreciated your professionalism. I really have. We won't talk about the TikTok king that you're running against because that's all I really know him for is all he's done on TikTok, which now the United States Department of Justice has come out and said, yes, they actually are gathering information from you while you're on TikTok. Like any moron didn't know that. So I've tried to stay off of TikTok best I can. But evidently there's some morons out there that don't know that, and he'll keep putting stuff out there, I guess. That's his way of getting to his people. But you have done a lot for us. You member of the Freedom Caucus up there in Congress, and I know sometimes people give you a hard time on that. I'm a member of Freedom Caucus in the state legislature. It's up to us. We've got to be that rock in the river that makes the current go both ways. Got to stand tough.
I agree with that, Jeff, and I'm grateful that you are a member of the Freedom Caucus in the state house, and that I'm proud to have done it in Washington. What I always have tried to do in office is what I wanted folks to do when I was out of office, and that is I wanted some people, to your point, that would work at it, number one, and number two, that weren't afraid of their own shadow. I think people are desperate for somebody, especially in this age when the Democratic Party has gone lunatic, really, the guys who run it anyway, and stand up. And so that's what the Freedom Caucus has been about from its inception. And it always seemed like the right path to me. And I think we did shake the foundations a little bit in terms of moving the House in the direction of doing things the right way and pursuing legislative policy. Not like you're messaging to somebody all the time, like you're trying to play act, like you're going to get something done for them, but you actually try. And again, I think that's got to be done. I think you all do that in the state legislature. The state legislature has been in Republican hands for 14 years. That's been different than the Congress because there's been a sea change. It's run things pretty well. But I think there always is time to sort of reexamine first principles and get back to business in a serious way, and that's what Freedom Caucus is about, where you are and where I've been in the House.
Well, both of us we modeled ours after y'all, and it's about adhering to the Constitution, the law of the land, and I think so many people have lost their way with that document. I look at them, how many people have lost their way with the Bible, and it seems like both of those, you take out the parts you like, and throw away the parts you don't like out of both of them, unfortunately. And I don't think neither one of them were written where you could just pick what you like out of it. You got to take the whole documents and believe them. And so that's what I think is so important about that. Looks like we got a lot of people calling in, but we're going to take calls at the second part of the show, folks. Sorry about that. So anyway, we got a hard break coming up here in about 40 seconds, Dan, at the 11:15 mark. But I mean, I've watched you stand tough on constitutional, and maybe it wasn't popular. I know Patrick McHenry. Sometimes y'all were at odds because you took a stance. It's tough. It's tough, and I know you've known Patrick a long time. Sometimes you got to be at odds
with your own folks on occasion, and you can't be afraid of that either. You got to take care of business.
Well, I mean, you speak your mind, and that's what I'm going to love about you when you become our Attorney General is you're going to speak your mind, you're going to say what needs to be said, and you're going to do what's right, and that's big. We got to take a hard break right here. Dan, stay with me. Audience, stay with me. We'll be right back in a minute and a half. This is Get Good. Stay with us.
We'll be back with more of NC Representative Jeff McNeely.
p.m. with music starting at 7. The Langtree Live free concert series powered by Waves Entertainment rolls on this Thursday with Vegas McGraw. The Center Stage Alliance holds the Bluegrass Jam on Friday night. Bring your favorite instrument and come jam every Friday at 109 East Broad Street in Statesville. The Iredell County Fair opens Friday night at the Fairgrounds in Troutman. The 88th annual event, sponsored by the Kiwanis Club, features some of the best entertainment in the area, including go-kart racing, carnival rides for all ages, competitive 4-H exhibits and animal shows, the magic of Lance Gifford, and much more. The fair runs through September 7th. Gates and rides open weekdays at 5 p.m. and on weekends at 3 p.m. Tickets are $5, while kids 6 and under are free. Carnival ride tickets and wristbands are available at the ticket box. Enjoy the Iredell County Fair for 9 straight days beginning this Friday at the Fairgrounds in Troutman. The town of Davidson presents the Music and Makers concert series on Saturday. Main Street businesses will feature handmade items produced by local makers. Take advantage of the social district and enjoy live music at the Crazy Pig Stage on 402 South Main Street in Davidson beginning at 2 p.m. On September 7th, see the top riders from the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship as they compete on a custom-built course at ZMAX Dragway. The playoff opener features a 2-moto format for the 450cc class and the 250cc class, promising plenty of drama and excitement the moment the gates drop. The Super Motocross Fan Fest is a pre-race event taking place from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. where you can see the teams practice, prepare, and qualify for the playoff round and is included in the event ticket. Don't miss the biggest Super Motocross race of the year. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com or the CMS app for information and details. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
For 42 years, Johnson's Parts and Supply has been your Auto Plus auto parts store. When you need auto parts, think Johnson's Parts and Supply. Your Auto Plus auto parts store, 1112 Shelton Avenue, Statesville.
Now back to more Taking Care of Iredell with your host, NC Representative Jeff McNeely on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right, back here we got Congressman Dan Bishop on the line. Dan, you still with me?
Absolutely.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, let's get into this, talk a little bit about maybe, I don't know if you want to call it policy, but we'll definitely talk about what an attorney general should do. And the biggest problem we've had for 24 years now, I know of, if not before, with Easley, Cooper, and now Stein, is an attorney general that basically won't do their job and represent the state when we pass laws, and some usually it's the North Carolina Democratic Party or the National Democratic Party, but one of the we'll call liberal sides files a lawsuit against us trying to claim we're unconstitutional here or there or whatever. We go and hire outside litigation because Josh Stein won't represent us. If he does such a bad job, makes a deal on the side. We can't take him. We can't have it.
You're totally right, Jeff. And there are a number of angles to that I'd like to comment on real quickly. One is, I think the number is in excess of $40 million of attorney's fees that the General Assembly leadership has incurred over the course of several years of fighting battles that they already appropriate money to the Department of Justice and the Attorney General's office to fight for them. The Attorney General is the state's lawyer, and any lawyer worth his salt understands the ethics of that. Your obligation is to represent your client zealously. And what Josh Stein has done, you gave 3 names there. It really has gotten particularly bad in the latter part of Roy Cooper's 16 years in the Attorney General's office, when he went from being sort of a moderate Democrat to a wokester. And then Josh Stein's been woke from day one. And they have consistently not followed the constitutional order that they're the state's lawyer. They use that one and Democrats do this across the country. They get executive positions, which under our Constitution are obliged to execute the laws faithfully, and they use that to set themselves up as a counter legislature, as a policy counterweight to the legislature. It is an obscene violation of constitutional principle, and it leads somewhere. If you look at the Soros prosecutors around the country, if you look at the the farthest reaches of this are Letitia James, the Attorney General of the state of New York.
Yeah, we've
who
seen
made
that.
it her purpose. Yeah, she vowed that she would persecute her political enemy, Donald Trump, from that office. That's never been done in history, in American history before, Jeff. And if it continues, but Josh Stein has done the same thing, and my opponent wants to continue doing the same thing from the Attorney General's office. We almost have become numb to it, but it is why we must have common sense, somebody who follows the law, elected, and not to create law or use a false kind of an argument about things being unconstitutional in order to do what he wants to do. That's what's happening. It's all a form of lawfare. You've heard that term.
Mm-hmm.
It's lawfare because you're using the mechanisms of law in order to pervert the political order. That's what's happening.
Well, Dan, I think a perfect example is this, the Title IX. Folks, we're talking about women's sports, basically high school and collegiate, where, we set up a law in the 70s to make sure they got adequate equal funding with the men. And so now inside of that, and they did it through the Department of, I guess it was Health, wasn't it? The Biden administration loves to use these obscure different departments that all of a sudden have some kind of a say-so in something they've never talked about or worked with before, but they come up and redefined basically what a female athlete was to allow transgenders to have a say, which basically went against many states' laws, one that I helped work with in past, Save Women's Sports. So here they come up with this mess where a man can go into a women's locker room and hang out, I guess, if he feels like it today. Maybe tomorrow he feels more like a man. Let him come in there and hang out and do something. We'll see what happens to him. But anyway, thank God about 18, 19, maybe more than that. We're maybe up to about close to 30, aren't we? It's a bunch of attorney generals across the country have filed a countersuit to stop this definition of what a female athlete is, so that we can hold on to a little bit of sanctity in women's sports before they totally make it disappear.
Exactly, Jeff. There are 26 states in which the attorneys general are fighting the Biden administration's radical new rule issued under that statute, Title IX. And as you said, Title IX was passed in 1972 with one purpose in mind. It was to protect the opportunities for women and girls in education, including athletic opportunities. And it is, it's been great success. But the reason I go back and say that so emphatically is because you could not do anything worse to undermine the purpose of that statute than what they're proposing to do. So they issue this rule and all this explanation for the rule that is in total 1,600 pages almost.
Wow!
And it is, and as you say, a big part of it is they go in and they say to discriminate on the basis of sex, which we all thought we understood what that meant, now means gender identity, which they don't even define. And they say they even acknowledge in some of their papers that it could change at will, sort of. And so, and again, they're going to use that to force school system after school system all over the country and every college and university that takes federal aid to say that a man can go into a private locker room of women. And it's always been an anti-common sense, crazy thing to do. And so, yeah, not surprisingly, more than half of the states come out and fought it. And it's been enjoined by multiple trial courts across the country. The United States Supreme Court has did an emergency appeal to that, and the Supreme Court said, no, we're leaving that injunction in place. We're for that. And in fact, they actually said this, Jeff. They said, all of us, every justice on the Supreme Court agrees that the people were entitled to an injunction against that part of the rule. There's some other things in there about, breastfeeding things and all these things that the liberals on the court said, no, those things should have been allowed to go into effect. But they all agreed on the United States Supreme Court, 9 justices out of 9.
That's rare.
That folks were entitled to stop that. But guess who hasn't lifted a finger to do anything about it? Josh Stein in North Carolina.
That's right.
We stick out like a sore thumb. So you have now a chaos across the states across this state, where some school systems are feeling under pressure to implement that rule. Moms for Liberty has been a plaintiff in that litigation out in Kansas, one of the pieces of litigation, and anywhere, and thank goodness, where a Moms for Liberty member has a child who's in school, that school cannot see that rule implemented. That's exactly the kind of overreach of federal power that our Attorney General ought to be defending against. And on the other hand, take Josh Stein. He and Roy Cooper before him have fought voter ID. It was first enacted in 2013 by the legislature. In 2018, it was made a constitutional amendment. Yeah,
bipartisan. Had a Democrat on the bill.
To be sure, but our last two states' lawyers, think about that, for over a decade have used their office to fight the implementation of the law. So they've got it completely upside down, and that should. And they really, my opponent will be a duplicate of Josh Stein in every respect. Yeah. And so that won't get fixed unless we fix it on November 5.
Well, once again, too, here was two different people we've talked about. Roy Cooper and Josh Stein both created the backlog on the rape kits. And then he has the audacity, and that's why I love to call him Lying Josh Stein. Then he has the audacity to say he fixed it. Well, by God, you make a mess at my house. Yeah, you better clean it up. But you know what? He comes to us. Really, we did it without him coming to us so much. We gave him $16 million to hire the people to clean it up because in the Republican caucus, and I was there, we argued about doing this, whether we should, because we knew it was going to help Josh Stein politically. But it was the right thing to do for the victims that had no justice, and the clock was ticking. They were going to run out the clock, and they could not use the evidence. It was taking so long on so many of these cases. We gave him the money to fix the problem. Of course, he takes credit for it, I guess, because he hired the people. But he had people, and they're still a year behind. Please, Dan, when you win, get it less than a year. That's his big line. There's still 2,800 rape kits out there, but they're only a year old. So that's good. That's fine. Well, tell that to the woman that got raped a year ago.
Yeah, and Jeff, they've played the politics on that like a harmonica, but there's a bigger picture there with the state crime lab that is under the responsibility of the Attorney General. And to your point, General Assembly has funded a good bit to make improvements there. I think it's a question of management, but it remains the case not only with rape kits, but one of the things about this race for Attorney General, I'm endorsed by the overwhelming majority of the state's district attorneys, by the overwhelming majority of the state's sheriffs. I just got an endorsement last week by the Police Benevolent Association, so the main, and so the law enforcement community knows that they have not received any support or collaboration from Josh Stein, and they know that it'll be the same way if he's replaced by my opponent, and so they're eager to. But that is what the job is, Jeff, is coordinate with those guys. So going back to the crime lab.
We're down to about 10 seconds. How do we find you on Facebook? What is it? Dan Bishop?
VoteDanBishop.com is our website, and it's Dan Bishop NC on all the social media.
Good. Hey, brother, I appreciate you. I'm going to get you back. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Keep it right here. Taking Care of Iredell with NC Representative Jeff McNeely will return after this short break on 105.9
Pomodoros of Mooresville has the perfect space for your crowd. Book your next event at Pomodoros.com.
We're at Black Automotive, and there are trucks everywhere. GMC Sierra 1500 trucks are up to $8,500 off now at Black Automotive, and over 40 pre-owned vehicles out of the vast inventory under $20,000. Black Automotive, Statesville.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Competition for eBay and Craigslist from IKEA. The Financial Times reports IKEA is rolling out IKEA Pre-Owned, so customers could sell secondhand furniture. It's going to test in 2 cities in Europe until the end of the year. Then the main operator of IKEA stores plans to roll out the platform around the world. The company figures IKEA will have a higher market share in this than in new furniture sales. The seller will have the option of taking money for the sale or getting a voucher from IKEA with a 15% bonus. Businesses are being more careful with their money. Orders placed with factories for business equipment fell last month, just slightly though. Bookings for all durable goods orders jumped almost 10%. Most of that has to do with transportation equipment. On Wall Street, the Dow is up close to 0.5%, trading in record territory, up 178 points. The Nasdaq and S&P are falling 0.25 to 1.1%. The Nasdaq down 191, the S&P 16. Joan Doniger, Bloomberg Radio.
Call now to speak with NC Representative Jeff McNeely at 844-STUDIO-4. It's Taking Care of Iredell on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
All right, back here with the second part of the show. I think I got my bud on the line, but let me say one thing real quick from last week. The Republican headquarters did open up in Statesville and Mooresville, and the hours are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 4. So if you want to go, that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 2, Saturday, 10 to 4 at both locations in Mooresville and in Statesville. Joe, I think we got the sick and tired patriot on the line. Is that right? Let's bring that boy in here. Jesse, what you up to, sir?
Hey, I'm making it, Jeff. I want to play here right quick. I just want to say is I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Amen.
God.
Amen.
All right. Can we do a little gospel? Give a little gospel out this morning.
All right, let's hear it.
We know Genesis, it tells us that the Word is God and God is the Word.
There you go.
And we know that God etched those 10 commandments with his own finger in stone, okay? And this country is founded on them 10 commandments. And to say that we're going to remove them from the courthouses, that is a damnation right there. And who can ever really think that this republic can be saved by removing the 10 commandments from our rules, our laws, and the very first commandment is there shall be no other gods before Him. Okay.
Amen.
And to try to make laws that goes against these laws is a damnation, man. And it's just I actually feel like the people who are in office that don't even know the Constitution. They're, and I don't like saying what the people's jobs are, but it's like they don't know that they are supposed to be protecting the Constitution, right?
Yeah, they're trying to rewrite it all the time, Jesse. You got. Not only do they not know it, but they're trying to rewrite and put in whatever they want. I mean, Biden right now, look at all the crap he's wanting to do to the Supreme Court. He's wanting to do 18-year terms, and I think he's wanting to expand. I mean, it's just on, and that's Harris too. I mean, she's going to do whatever somebody tells her. She don't know what she's doing. So, but I mean, I fight this all the time. People don't even understand what constitutional is, and if they break it, there's no penalty. I think you need to do 2 years in jail if you do something unconstitutional and you're an elected official.
I mean, all the laws that we've got in this land, I mean, it breaks down. All we need is those 10 laws. I mean, this country is not abiding by not one commandment. The country itself is breaking every commandment. And that is where we have got to start. If we can't hold these 10 laws, these 10 commandments, then, I mean, there's no hope. I mean, that's just God. That's just that. And we think back this whenever this Constitution was written, is look at what kind of communications did we have at that point in time, Ted? A feather with some ink.
Yep.
That was the only way to communicate, right?
Yeah, just United States Post Office wasn't even really founded in, so it was by carrier. So.
Exactly. But look how far we have come since then.
Have we? Have we really come that far, though? I swear. It seems like maybe we're going backwards.
I can get a message to you instantly now. It don't take a year to get a message to you through a carrier. I mean, that right there alone ought to tell you how we ought to be able to adjust to that with our ways of voting. I personally don't think we need term limits. We just need to have we need to be voting every year based upon what we see our representatives doing. We can nip it in the butt quicker. So, we could go on and on about this country's problems, but until we get back to the good Lord, get the commandments, and all be in unison, I don't think there's any hope.
Just remember this: all wisdom comes from fear of the Lord, and that's what we don't have anymore.
Yep, but it just seems like government is only created from fear. That's what government is created from, is from fear.
Well, I believe Hollywood's made hell look like a decent place to hang out for eternity. That's part of our problem. We don't understand. We don't understand what everlasting life is with the Lord, and we don't really understand what hell is without. And so
right.
People have lost their fear. They've lost their fear. And maybe that sounds bad, but that's the truth. That they've succumbed to their own conclusions, not what is divine.
That's right. Jeff, I'll let somebody else call in.
All right, brother. Take care. Pray. I do it every morning, every night, and in between. Pray for this country. Pray.
That's it, man, brother.
All right. See you, brother. Bye. Anybody else like to call in? 844-788-3464. Love to hear from you. Well, I don't know if y'all remember, but we were talking about me serving on the Government Operations Committee. We call it GovOps, and that we had Karen Brinson Bell, the director of the State Bureau of Elections, come before us to discuss some of the inconsistencies that were going on at the North Carolina State Board of Elections. Now, understand, there's 5 people that sit on the North Carolina State Board of Elections. 3 are appointed by the governor, and 2 are appointed basically one by the House, one by the Senate, by the Republican parties. And there was no rhyme or reason to a lot of their decisions they made and their votes that they had. Most of them were a party line, 3-2. And so it was brought to light how much more difficult all of a sudden they were making it on more liberal groups such as We the People and Justice for All, 2 different parties, because, once again, they've done everything they can. They did everything they could to protect Joe Biden, now protect Kamala Harris. So we brought all this out, and they were basically sued and forced to do the vote and make it more consistent. Funny, Constitutional Party, they approved it. Boom, boom, wham, wham. No problem, because they figured that would hurt Donald Trump. Do we have another one? All right. We're going to take another caller and see what we got on the line. This is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got?
This is Mr. Howe, Representative Jeff.
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good, Doc. Just trying to hang out with you.
I hear you.
What I enjoyed your program last week. I heard you and I got busy and I didn't get to comment on it. But what you were saying, you know what? I'll tell you what. When you was doing your primary and then you said the other fellow was running against you and then you just said you didn't talk nothing down on them like politics do. You know your product. You just said experience what I have. You remember?
That's right. That's the way it should be. Talk about yourself. Don't talk about others.
Yeah, and then that experience that you got really paid off last week when you gave that talking about what the other president didn't do and he did what he supposed to do. Well, he done did a lot of stuff he didn't supposed to do. But you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna get into all that, but we gotta, obey, honor them that, have to rule over you. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? But I'm gonna say this right here without saying a lot. The next president is, I don't like when people call him Trump. I want them to call him President Trump because he done proved himself. And you know what I'm saying? That's enough of that. But I just wanted to say that. And also, let me say this too, Representative. I was in a restaurant in Newton with about 4 or 5 other different people, and then we was getting to talking. I'm a preacher of the gospel.
Yes,
but
sir.
yet still, I was sitting there talking about what the situation, what I know and what I heard, and reliable sources, of course, and then I was just talking about, well, who y'all gonna vote for? That's why. Who are y'all voting for? And they said they was gonna vote for the Democratic Party. I say now, let me just say this. I'm not gonna go through the whole detail. I just say now, let me say this to you right here. It's your privilege, and you can vote for whoever you want. But I'm going to say the thing is right now, we can't be just go ahead and elect this next president coming up there. And because what's going on already, it can't be no worse than what has already been going. So, and then when I got to say a whole lot of stuff, and don't you know, Representative, I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm patting them out. I'm praising God. And don't you know these people and we won 4 people on the Republican vote for Trump, in which they didn't know. They was undecided, really. They didn't know. And there was 4 people already because I opened my mouth up. Well, you know what I'm saying?
The Lord's working in you. He's working in you and through you.
Our next president. This is what I'm an independent. See, I can go either way. It's the best man for the job.
That's right.
And we know the best man for the job. That's enough of that. I ain't saying nothing else.
All right, brother. You take care. Keep up the good work. All right. Anyway, we've got about 10 seconds here. We got to go, but I'll bring it back up. But basically, now that they let them on there, the Democratic North Carolina Party sued the State Board of Elections. Hang tight.
Stay with us. We'll have more Taking Care of Iredell with NC Representative Jeff McNeely after these messages on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, the heat's set to come back as a lot of our kids around the Lake Norman area get back to school this week, too. Heat and humidity cranking up. We're back up around 90, plenty of sunshine. Still not all that sticky today, but you'll really start to feel the difference as we go throughout the next couple of days. Overnight, a partly cloudy sky will fall back into the upper 60s for our Tuesday, getting hotter, and feels like temperatures by the middle of the week going to be up around 100, even the low 100s. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Langtree, Lake Norman, and Mooresville presents Vegas McGraw on Thursday, August 29th. Event time is 6:30 p.m. with music starting at 7. The Langtree Live free concert series powered by Waves Entertainment rolls on this Thursday with Vegas McGraw. The Center Stage Alliance holds the Bluegrass Jam on Friday night. Bring your favorite instrument and come jam every Friday at 109 East Broad Street in Statesville. The Iredell County Fair opens Friday night at the Fairgrounds in Troutman. The 88th annual event, sponsored by the Kiwanis Club, features some of the best entertainment in the area, including go-kart racing, carnival rides for all ages, competitive 4-H exhibits and animal shows, the magic of Lance Gifford, and much more. The fair runs through September 7th. Gates and rides open weekdays at 5 p.m. and on weekends at 3 p.m. Tickets are $5 while kids 6 and under are free. Carnival ride tickets and wristbands are available at the ticket box. Enjoy the Iredell County Fair for 9 straight days beginning this Friday at the Fairgrounds in Troutman. The town of Davidson presents the Music and Makers concert series on Saturday. Main Street businesses will feature handmade items produced by local makers. Take advantage of the social district and enjoy live music at the Crazy Pig Stage on 402 South Main Street in Davidson beginning at 2 p.m. On September See the top riders from the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship as they compete on a custom-built course at ZMAX Dragway. The playoff opener features a two-moto format for the 450cc class and the 250cc class, promising plenty of drama and excitement the moment the gates drop. The Super Motocross Fan Fest is a pre-race event taking place from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. where you can see the teams practice, prepare, and qualify for the playoff round and is included in the event ticket. Don't miss the biggest Super Motocross race of the year. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com or the CMS app for information and details. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Now, more Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina Representative Jeff McNeely on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
This really is the quickest hour of my week. But getting back a little bit to what I was just talking about. So basically, my long story short, both parties now, we the people and Justice for All, will be on the ballot like they should have been all along. If it hadn't been up to Government Operations Committee bringing this to light and showing everybody the discrepancies here, nothing would have really happened because none of the press want to pick this up. Everybody's working, doing their part to make sure that democracy is derailed. You always hear about protecting democracy. That's not what happened here in North Carolina. The Democratic Party's doing everything they can to derail democracy. Trust me on that. If the shenanigans they pulled would have been a Republican-led board, Lord mercy, what would they have done? They may have been gone out and killed them. Who knows? It would have been bad. But the media sure would have been in an uproar. All right, we got a caller here. I think we're going to take it in as a Hope, I believe. Hope, are you on the line?
Yes, sir, Jeff. Well, let me start with a little poem I wrote once, and that is left wing, right wing. It takes them both to fly this bird, and if you kill the middle, neither are going to work.
That's
so we
right.
have to figure that out. But can we just not solve the LGBTQ sports thing by just creating a third league just for that whole genre
I'm with
of people?
I'm with you. Do not take. I tell you what, I don't know if you watched it, but if you didn't, go on YouTube. I hope everybody does. Watch the so-called woman boxer from, I think it was Colombia, just beat the living pulp out of a woman that I think was, I don't know if she was French or Italian or whatever. She was European, but just beat her to death. And it wasn't even, I couldn't hardly watch it. I couldn't watch it. It was so brutal.
Well, I tend to not go for stuff like that. I think the solution is that people walking into that league alone would know that they might get themselves pulp beat to death.
Yeah, but this was totally
unfair. A
unfair.
lot of is trust.
Totally.
Sure it was. Yeah, it all depends on what the corrupt fingers are in the pie on that one too.
Yeah.
They could start a whole new bank account if they start a whole new league for this stuff. And I just hate to see it being messed up because some people are on their journey, and instead of bumping into someone else's, just have yours. There's got to be a way to do it.
Well,
that's all.
I just feel bad for these young ladies who start out in whatever sport at probably a very young age, excel, do well, and not by anything other than the grace of God. A man is just stronger in most instances than the majority of most women, and that's just the way it is. I can't help that. And
it's
so
a whole other layer of processing that. Yeah. Trying to have that as a layer of your energy taken away to do your thing. Yeah.
And so these young ladies train all their life. And I heard, we were sitting on the floor of the House, and one of my Democratic colleagues got up, and she actually swam on the 1976 Olympic team. She trained all of her life to this day. I think she was 18, 20 years old, and shows up in Berlin. And the East German team showed up, and everybody knew they were on steroids, and just pummeled them, beat them unmercifully. And she actually sat there on the floor, and she goes, and I realized after time that it was just being able to compete was the reward. Well, now, Hope, I don't know about you, but they keep score, and if they're keeping score, my hope is that I win. If I'm gonna dedicate most of my life to some sport that I'm good at and train and try to be elite, and then to know that I got cheated, and that those steroids that those women are on is no different than the natural testosterone that a man has in him that happened with that boxer, that's happened with a lot of different things we've seen. That is not the playing field. We created women's sports for a reason, so that women could compete against equal women, not against somebody
that third branch. Yeah.
And so if they want
create a third branch,
if they want to make up another division, I'm okay with that. I am. do not steal that moment from that young lady. Do not take her scholarship that she's worked hard. That may be her only way to get her education paid for. Do not do that. Do not do that to her. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And we passed a law saying that as much in North Carolina. Then the Biden administration went about a roundabout way with a redefinition from the Department of Health to allow them to circumvent our state law. And that's not what it's about when you look at our 10th and 15th, 14th Amendments, 10th and 14th, where it gives the states rights to be able to do certain things, to be able to govern themselves. And in my opinion, if your state wishes this and it gets passed in law, like it did, then we abide by what we do, not by some definition that is concocted by somebody who was appointed to lead the Department of Health, the United States Department of Health. I'm sorry, that's not the way our government should be.
The whole thing's just a little wiggly because then at the same time, as an American, a person is entitled to pursuing what their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is. And we just got to learn how not to crash into each other. It makes me think of a quote that is not mine that I heard that's interesting. And it says, what is legal is not necessarily moral.
There you go.
It is not the true determiner of right and wrong. And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, the only moral thing to do is to break the law. That's why we have to be in agreement when we do make laws, so that everyone can kind of just gel with it and go, yes, this is America. You know, we are who we are. And I'd like it to be said that once you come to America, we're American Americans. I'm really kind of thinking, you know, there's a this American and a that American. No, we're Americans. And I actually learned that from a man who came here from Finland. I said, where are you from? He goes, I'm from America. I'm American now. But he did finally tell me he was from Finland. But once you get here, you're an American American. We don't have to, you know, I mean, I like the culture and the quality changes of different things, learning about the world, but when it boils down to positive input to the struggle, man, that's all.
Well, I think, unfortunately, common sense got checked at the door. And that's the one thing I always say. I always like to think I have a superpower, and it's that I have common sense, and it's a rarity these days, I feel like, especially in politics. Some things are just some things are just common sense. You look at this situation with men and women's sports. This is common sense. Men play men's sports, women play women's sports. If somebody wants to be transgender and be involved in somewhere, then they need to find a co-ed team or something like that. And they had some actually co-ed Olympic stuff. So end up on a co-ed team, but don't come into some place that you're not there for the right reasons. You're not there. You don't belong. You don't belong in that category.
Right.
So.
Well, unfortunately, what happens when people start feeling like their voice is being heard, what they don't check at the door is to not act like the person that made them cry out in the first place. You need to find, you know, a way to go, yes, you're hearing me, and now let me show you how I do it, and not harm anybody on the way with theirs. You know, we keep going for the seesaw action when we need to somehow, in the world, try to find a peaceful settlement versus their turn to be up on top.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Amen. Amen.
Anyhow, well, I really enjoy your show, and thank you so much for everything you're trying to do, and anyone that's trying to do. We're all working on this together. I don't care. You know, like I say, we all poop, pee, and bleed, man.
Yep.
Have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am. See you. All right. We got another caller. We good for a little bit? All right. Let me break into something here and explain something here that happened, and it's really important because it involves Dan Bishop, hopefully in the future. Judge Graham Shirley, Wake County Superior Court, ruled, and of course now there's appeal, ruled against Josh Stein's Attorney General's office. It's kind of crazy. Way back at Mike Easley in 2000, when the hurricane come through, the state of North Carolina actually went after and sued Smithfield Farms because of we got two hurricanes back to back, and about probably 2 foot of rain came within about 10, 12 days. And a lot of the hog lagoons down east overran their banks and flooded and went into the creeks. And I don't think nobody wanted 2 foot of rain, and I don't think Smithfield did this on purpose. But anyway, basically they concocted that they were going to get $50 million out of Smithfield Farms, Smithfield Foods, over the next 25 years, $2 million each year, and it went to the Attorney General's office, not into our state treasurer. and allowed the Attorney Generals Mike Easley, then Roy Cooper, and Josh Stein to all be able to give to whatever environmental fund they got. Now, this was considered a fine and forfeiture, and it should have went into that category instead of being at the Attorney General's office. We actually made a law in 21, moved the money away from the Attorney General's office, put it in the state legislature for us to do. It's a constitutional duty to allow us to spend the money. Unfortunately, through the comptroller and some other ways, Josh Stein's Attorney General's office has continued to draw about $5 million out of this fund even after it was taken away from him. Now, nobody's reporting this. Nobody's bringing this up. All they want to talk about is a daycare center. But let's talk about what's really going on in circumventing our North Carolina's Constitution, which is what I feel like Josh Stein's office has done. So, in the meantime, we finally shut that door, we feel like, and he can't open it. And I'm sure if we get somebody with some morals like Dan Bishop in there instead of another copycat like Josh Stein, we'll be fine and we won't have to worry about somebody trying to circumvent our North Carolina Constitution. This has been a big thing to me. I don't know why that they allowed this to go on as long as they did, other than we didn't have the Supreme Court that would rule the right way in the law to stop it. Finally, now that there's a decent Supreme Court in North Carolina that rules by law, it was stopped. But we went on and on fighting this. So it's been very complicated. But there's still about $12 million that is not being accounted for, about $5 million of it, Josh Stein. So we're trying to figure all this out. Real quick, got to go. National debt hits $35 trillion. Since January of 2021. Guess what happened that day? I think that was about the same time Joe Biden got in. It has grown $7.3 trillion. Folks, I just want you to sit down and think about that. All right, we're going to pray. Lord knows we need your help, Lord. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, we seem to be on a spiraling path down in this country with a crushing debt that we've accumulated by poor policies, poor ideas. Please, Lord, bless us. Please give us some common sense. Please let us work our way out of this mess. But first, Lord, you've got to come to us and tell us we can't keep spending. We can't keep doing what we've been doing. Lord, walk with us in all we do. Please hear our prayers. Please hear our calls. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Folks, until next week, take care.
You've been listening to North Carolina Representative Jeff McNeely. Join Jeff again next Monday morning at 11:05 for Taking Care of Iredell on News Talk WSIC.
Serving you better